namaste, welcome, and aloha. Welcome to the verse titled Consciousness Becomes Purified, Attaining Mental Clarity and Joy. Verses. We've learned how steady devotion develops through sustained practice over time. Now, this verse reveals what happens to consciousness itself, the state of mind that emerges when purification is advanced. Titled Consciousness Becomes Purified. This verse describes a state of perfect clarity and joy when the mind is no longer tainted by passion, ignorance, lust, and greed. This is about mental clarity, inner peace, true satisfaction. Let us explore this beautiful teaching. First, the verse in its original Sanskrit, Tada Rajastamo Bhavaha Kamlobhadesh Chet etairna viddam sthitam sattate prasidati. Yes. These words describe the purified state of consciousness. Let us understand what they reveal. Now let us go through the raw form of English translation of the verse. The translation: when the consciousness is untainted by the influences of passion and ignorance, the roots of lust, greed, and similar vices, it becomes firmly established in the mode of pure goodness. In that serene state, the mind attains perfect clarity and joy. This describes the result of purification. Let us explore what this means. Now, let us look at some core teaching of this verse. This verse describes the state of purified consciousness. Let us understand the key elements. First, tada rajas tamo bhavaha, then the influences of passion and ignorance. Tada, then, at that time when purification is advanced. Rajas tamaha bhavaha, the influences, the qualities of passion and ignorance. In Vedic philosophy, there are three modes of material nature: sattva, goodness; rajas, passion; and tamas. Rajas passion drives us toward agitation, desire, restlessness. Tamas ignorance pulls us toward delusion, laziness, confusion. Second, kama lobhadayash kayi lust, greed, and similar vices. Kama, lust, desire, craving, lobha, greed, avarice, adaya, and so on, and similar things. These are the symptoms of rajas and tamas. When consciousness is dominated by passion and ignorance, these vices arise: lust, greed, anger, envy, delusion. Third, sita eter anavidam, when the consciousness is untainted by these: sitaiha, consciousness, mind, heart; etaiha, by these; anavidam, untainted, unaffected, not pierced by. This is the key. When consciousness is no longer affected by passion and ignorance. Not that these influences are absent from the world, but that consciousness is no longer controlled by them. Fourth, sthita sattva prasidati, established in goodness. It becomes satisfied and clear. Sthitam, established, situated, fixed. Sattve, in the mode of goodness, in purity. Prasidati, it becomes satisfied, it becomes clear, it attains joy. This is the result. When consciousness is established in goodness, untainted by passion and ignorance, it attains perfect clarity and joy. This verse teaches: when consciousness is no longer affected by passion, ignorance, lust, and greed, and is situated in goodness, it becomes satisfied and clear. This is not suppression, this is transformation. The consciousness itself changes. What once disturbed you no longer disturbs you. What once agitated you no longer agitates you. You attain prasidati, clarity, satisfaction, joy, not dependent on external circumstances, but arising from the purified state of consciousness itself. Now let us look at some modern scientific parallels. This ancient teaching about purified consciousness corresponds to modern understanding of emotional regulation and mental clarity. First, consider emotional regulation. the ability to modulate emotional responses. Research shows that emotional regulation can be developed. You can train yourself to respond to situations with clarity rather than reactivity. This is Seta Anavitam consciousness untainted. You're not controlled by passion and ignorance. You can observe emotions without being overwhelmed by them. Second, consider equanimity, mental calmness, and evenness of temper. Equanimity is a trainable skill. Through contemplative practices, you can develop the ability to remain calm and clear regardless of circumstances. This is Theta Sattva established in goodness. Your baseline state becomes one of clarity and peace. Third, consider prefrontal cortex development and executive function. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for impulse control, emotional regulation, and decision making, can be strengthened through practice. Studies on meditation show increased gray matter density in the prefrontal cortex. Mental training literally changes brain structure. This is the neurological basis for prasidati, the clarity and satisfaction that arise from a well trained mind. Fourth, consider research on contentment versus hedonic adaptation. External achievements produce temporary pleasure that fades quickly, hedonic adaptation. But internal states of contentment can be stable and lasting. This is exactly what the verse describes. Prasidati satisfaction that arises from the purified state of consciousness itself, not from external circumstances. Let us now move on to some practical application as it relates to this verse. How do we apply this teaching in our daily lives? First, recognize that mental clarity and equanimity can be developed. You are not stuck with your current level of reactivity. Through practice, consciousness can be purified. Setanavidam, untainted consciousness, is achievable. Second, develop practices that cultivate mental clarity. Meditation, contemplation, mindfulness, prayer. These practices train the mind to remain clear and calm. This is how you establish consciousness in goodness, sthita sattva. Third, recognize and reduce reactive patterns. Notice when you're being controlled by passion, rajas, agitation, desire, restlessness. Notice when you're being controlled by ignorance, tamas, delusion, laziness, confusion. Don't judge yourself, just notice. Awareness is the first step to transformation. Fourth, cultivate contentment independent of circumstances. Don't wait for external conditions to be perfect before you feel satisfied. Cultivate prasidati, clarity, and joy from within. This doesn't mean you don't work to improve circumstances, but your baseline state is not dependent on them. Fifth, observe how lust and greed arise from passion and ignorance. Kamalova, lust, and greed are symptoms, not causes. The cause is consciousness dominated by rajas and tamas. Address the root, not just the symptoms, purify consciousness, and the symptoms naturally subside. Sixth, trust the process of gradual purification. Tada then, at that time. This doesn't happen overnight, but through sustained practice, consciousness gradually becomes purified. You'll notice things that used to disturb you no longer disturb you. You respond with clarity instead of reactivity. You experience satisfaction independent of circumstances. Seventh, make goodness your baseline sthita sattva. Arrange your life to support consciousness in goodness. Your environment, your associations, your daily rhythms, your practices. Create conditions that support clarity and peace. Now let us look at how this verse can help our young people. For young people, this verse offers a powerful framework for mental training. You're growing up in an age of constant stimulation, constant agitation, constant passion, and ignorance. Here's the empowering truth. Like how top athletes stay calm under pressure, you can develop mental training that keeps you clear headed regardless of external circumstances. This is not about suppressing emotions. This is about training your mind so you're not controlled by them. Seta anaviddham, consciousness untainted. You can observe lust, greed, anger, envy without being controlled by them. Develop daily practices, meditation, contemplation, mental training. Over time, your baseline state becomes one of clarity and peace. Sthita sattve prasidati. This is a superpower in a world of reactivity. Now let us look at how this verse can help our older generation folks. For those with more life experience, this verse speaks to something you've likely discovered. You've experienced external achievements, you've pursued pleasures, you've accumulated things, and you've probably discovered the peace that comes from inner stability is far more valuable than excitement from external achievements. Cultivate that stability. Prasidati, the clarity and satisfaction that arise from purified consciousness. This is what truly matters. Not the next achievement, not the next pleasure, but the inner state of clarity and peace. You have the wisdom to prioritize this. You've seen where external pursuits lead. Now is the time to cultivate sthita sattve consciousness established in goodness. This is the most valuable gift you can give yourself and the most valuable example you can offer younger generations. In conclusion, we can say this verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam describes the state of purified consciousness. When consciousness is untainted by passion and ignorance, established in goodness, it attains perfect clarity and joy. This is not suppression, this is transformation. The consciousness itself changes. Develop practices that cultivate mental clarity, reduce reactive patterns, cultivate contentment independent of circumstances. The purified state of consciousness, clear, satisfied, joyful, is achievable. This is the fruit of sustained practice. Thank you for exploring this verse with me. Thank you, namaste, and mahalo for joining me in this exploration of this verse. Consciousness becomes purified, attaining mental clarity and joy. Now we will move on to next verse.